Good morning, CLC. Thank you for joining us this morning. We hope that you are enjoying this week and this weekend. We have some lovely weather going on, nice, cool, crisp breezes. So we hope that if you can, you're getting out there, and if you can't, that you are mentally and visually getting out there. So we welcome you. We are glad that you are here. And I ask you to join me in saying, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is. And now I invite you to just breathe in this moment. Relax your body. Relax your mind. Just sit in gratitude for everything you have, everything you're able to do, everything that you are, knowing that it is divinely inspired. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin the inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging the higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing the idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone who is present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude in saying, I am grateful for the good in your life.
All right, just a minute. Glasses, microphone, mask. You know, the supplies that are necessary. Good morning, Creative Life. Good morning. A pigeon flew from Oregon to Australia, broke quarantine, and was given a hero's welcome. There are still bright and beautiful and happy things in this world. Betty White turns 99 today. I just briefly scanned an article before coming up here on her 4 keys to longevity. They sound oddly similar to what we teach here. Living in the moment and so on. How to take care of yourself spiritually, mentally, emotionally. And today is also the day, traditionally, the 17th of January, when people abandon their New Year's resolutions. Makes it on average, makes it 17 days into the year, and people just give up. That's kind of sad. It's 2.5 weeks, you know. So what I'm here to do is paint rainbows all over your blues. What I'm here to do is offer some constructive information for how to improve the quality of your life. And we're in a series on the basics of the science of mind. This is week 3. Next week, the 5 weeks in January, next week we do not deviate. We do not veer off into the woods. We have instead a delightful speaker who is not me, who is the Reverend Lisa Ryan, one of our staff ministers. You've heard her before. She's behind the camera every Sunday and has been ever since March and will be until she isn't. And she is going to speak next week on the light within, which is a continuation and an elaboration and her unique take on spiritual life and spiritual practice. I want to read you something. When our days become dreary with low hovering clouds of despair, and when our nights become darker than 1,000 midnights, let us remember that there is a creative force in this universe working to pull down the gigantic mountains of evil, a power that is able to make a way out of no way and transform dark yesterdays into bright tomorrows. That is a statement by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I selected that out of countless speeches, sermons, and writings of his, because of that line in there about a creative force in this universe. He's not speaking about a narrow sectarian God, one explanation, one type of deity, a creative force in the universe. And I was just sitting over there getting ready to come up and give the talk when it crossed my mind, when we first started the center and we first moved into these buildings. It was the upstairs of the other building, as some of you, the old timers, will remember. The first decoration we ever had, I got some flip chart pages and I stenciled onto them, "There is a power for good in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it," by Ernest Holmes, and taped them up on a wall up there. And it was like, this is who we are. When people would come in, this is what we do. Everything is referential to that, okay? There is a power for good in the, what kind of power? There's a power for good. Where is this power for good? In the universe. How powerful is this power? It's greater than you are. And what do we do about this power? We use it. And more can be said. It's a slogan. That's why we have classes and workshops and the things that Danielle was referring to. We have books. We have a bookstore. We have a library. We have an archives in Colorado that has all sorts of amazing material. So a lot can be said about this, but it can also be boiled down. It can also be distilled down to a very simple statement: a power for good in the universe greater than you are, greater than your will. And see, the people who run out of gas around the 17th of January are running on will. They're running on their own power. They're just gritting their teeth and trying to fight through this thing and do this, whatever it is they've set their mind to do, or stop doing whatever it is they've set their mind to stop doing. But there's a power for good in the universe greater than you are. There's a power for good in the universe greater than you are. And I would insert in there right where you are. And you can use it. And you can use it. And I would insert there, I would append to that at the end, you can use it and be used by it. Be used by this power effectively, efficiently, and well. For instance, love is a many-splendored thing. Love is complicated. Love is just a word. It's like, what kind of love are you talking about? The love of people, the love of chocolate, the love of, right? There are all these different forms of, and so, well, God is love. God is love. Well, God is all inclusion. God is absolutely everything. But a way to look at love that's less complicated, and I don't mean all the time, I mean just for our purposes here, a way to look at it that's less complicated, more streamlined, and in a way kind of clinical, is that love works. Love is functional. Love is progressive. Love is constructive. Love moves things along. And so when we're talking about the cosmic love, the big picture love, the unconditional love, we're talking about something that is causing things to work and to flow together and to cohere, to stick together in useful ways. Love holds this building up in its own way. Love brings us together, we who are creating these services. We also get along. That's a slightly different topic, but not altogether. We like each other here. And we are loved. And we're also very clear that we're in service, not to be all like weird about it, but we're in service to a higher idea. This isn't just about the 5 of us or the 6 or 7 or 8 of us that are sometimes here on Sunday deciding, hey, let's get the kids and do a thing, go to the stage and put on. We're in service to a higher idea, which is getting out this message to people. That there is a power for good in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it. One of the things that I most admire about Dr. King, who had a very difficult life, as you know, is that he never lost his faith, even when his faith changed. His faith changed. His beliefs moderated some over time. He met more people. He saw more things. He had his mind open in ways that anybody does if they stick around for a while and they're open to that possibility. They meet people and they interact with people of different outlooks than their own. It's bound to happen to you. And yet he found a place in his faith for that. And so when he dialogued with world leaders and when he met with Jews and Muslims and probably pagans and atheists, he had a place in his faith system for that. He said there's a power. So he calls it, by this time, a creative force in the universe. There's a creative force in the universe. And when we turn toward that creative force, we realize that it can bring down the mountains of evil. Now, about evil. we could do a whole month on evil. I don't know who'd want to watch it, but somebody asked me a while back, I thought Science Mind didn't believe in evil. Well, yes and no. As with most questions you ask about the Science Mind, yes and no. We don't believe in an absolute power of evil. We don't think there's something out there that's trying to confound the good. We don't believe that God is limited to the point where there's an opposing power to God. Just like I don't personally think that God is a lobbyist. You know what I mean? Now, a lobbyist is God. Everyone is the experience that God is having of itself by means of them. But I don't think God reduces itself to being a lobbyist running around saying, you stop doing that, and can we have more of this over here? And I need, and that's a puny kind of little God. That it just is so sad that things aren't working out. And I would say to that God, for crying out loud, you're God. Okay, you're God. If you don't like how things are working out, who are you going to call? So the God of my understanding is something that doesn't interfere with creation. It facilitates creation, okay? It expedites creation. It moves things along. It says, here, you're going to learn. Each one of you is going to learn. Every one of these beings of light who are my agents of healing in the world, you're going to learn more. You may shut down to learning. Guess what? You're going to learn anyway. You're going to learn that shutting down to learning doesn't really work. It comes around somehow, and so forth. And it's not going to interfere with personal behavior, and it's not going to demand allegiance. It's not going to demand worship. And the word worship, thanks to Reverend David Dewhurst, who pointed this out in a talk of his a couple of years ago, the word worship means to find worth in. So yes, we do worship God. We find worth in God. But we don't fall on our faces and grovel, because that's not what's asked of us. Just like when a holiday was declared nationally for Dr. King, there was some pushback to that from people who said, I respect Dr. King absolutely, and if anybody deserves a holiday, it's him. And if there's anybody I can think of who wouldn't want a holiday, it would be him. He'd say, go work. You got work to do. There's more to do. There's more to do. So this power always has more to do through us, and it's always urging us on in some way. And as far as where evil comes in, so if there's not a power of evil that opposes the power of good, where does evil come in? Really simply stupidity. Ignorance, foolishness. Believing in separation so completely that we fall into the feeling of that. Being wounded and not doing anything about it, not having any kind of remedy for it. That's where evil comes in. Evil is reducible to evil actions, evil intentions, and so on. And it's seen, ultimately, like ignorance, to be an illusion, in the sense that there's knowing, and then there's like ignoring. Well, see, ignorance means you know something and you're pretending you don't. You can't ignore a thing, right? If you're in the room and I'm ignoring you, I know you're in the room. Otherwise, I'm oblivious. That's different from ignorance, obliviousness. Obliviousness is what it sounds like. Ignorance is willful and deliberate. And there is willful and deliberate evil intent sometimes, but I had some schooling from Emma Curtis Hopkins on this, who said, and I sort of figuratively had to sit down when I read this, like you're standing there with a book and say, oh my gosh, and I had to sit down and be with this, and I'm still being with this, because she put it so clearly and bluntly, and I think truthfully, when she said all evil is done in the name of good. Somebody thinks they're getting something out of this that they need, that they don't have, or that they might lose, This is why people engage in these acts. Well, what changes that? What heals that? I don't have the right words for it. I have some I'm going to suggest, but I don't know how to go around and just ding people on the head like with a magic wand and render them utterly self-conscious and aware. But there is a power that does know how to do that, that created them that way, that no matter how far they may have wandered from that, they find that as their true nature within. So that brings us to spiritual practice. And the first week I said, look for the light. There's a light through all things. Last week I suggested see that light emanating from you. Today what we're going to do is we're going to speak that light into form. You'll hear an expression among people of our faith where we say, I'm going to speak the word. Somebody will text or email or call you up and say, I'm having some kind of a crisis. Will you speak the word? It's shorthand. It's jargon. But what word? Well, the word with a capital W. The word that started all creation. That is available to us at the level of our understanding and immediate need. We speak the word in a process we call spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer. Much can be said about this, and will be all the rest of the year and all the years that we're here, okay? And it's in this class that Danielle, Heartfelt Living, mentioned. It's on Thursday nights. You can still join, and it's in all the other classes and all the other books. So I'm just telling you that because don't expect me to give you the whole goods right now today. I'm not holding anything back, but we've got a time limit here, okay? It's not a deal where, we'll give you one of the 5 steps, but for the other 4, you're going to have to subscribe to our diamond level. Have your credit card ready. Operators are standing by. No, that's not how it works, but I'm going to leave a lot of questions unanswered when I tell you what I'm going to tell you. Because you're going to be like, well, what about this or what about that? Okay, so we can talk about that, but for now, just know this. There is a statistic going around that says that an increasing number of people are returning to faith because of the pandemic. People who had kind of blown it off. They played golf on whatever Sunday or whatever day they had typically done overtly spiritual work, or I'm looking at Brian and Jeffrey here because they're golfers. But anyway, they did something else. And now, because of conditions, not just the pandemic, but all the conditions that confront us in the world, people are returning to faith. If you're one of these people, I have some suggestions for you. First of all, let's stop splitting hairs over what kind of God there is, okay? Whether it's a male God or a female God, or it lives in heaven, or what language it speaks, or what religion it favors. Let's just set all that aside for a moment and just agree there is one. Also, if we have a problem with the word God, let's set that aside for a moment and say, rather than counting through the whole list of available options every time, let's just call it God. I was a bartender briefly years and years ago, and it was funny. Somebody'd come in and they'd say, what kind of beer do you have? On draft or on ice. And we had a lot, And so you memorize the list. And we have, I can't say them on camera because they're all trademarked, but anyway, we have this and this and that and this light and that lager and this and that. And you go through this list of 20 or 30 or 40 beers, and invariably they'd ask, well, do you have this one? That wasn't on the list. And it's like, what about this do you not understand? So, okay, something is going to get left out here. But you'll have a question about it. We have a place right now in the comments track on Facebook Live and also many portals where you can ask these questions and so on. But people are coming back, and I want to set aside the idea of God, whatever name you want to call God. Like I said last week, whatever you call it is not as important as that you call it, as that you call it, as that you stand in it. And this will help in your spiritual practice. Ernest Holmes, our founder, determined that in all the world's faith traditions there was a thread of continuity running through all of them that proposed this idea, that the universe is one whole system. That system works through you. You can make a claim upon that system just as it's making a claim upon you. For example, if you treat the word we use, another word for speaking your word, if you pray scientifically, if you pray in faith believing for, money, you're going to get to spend it. If you pray for a car, you're going to get to drive it someplace. If you pray for friends, you're going to get to interact with them and influence them and be influenced by them. Nothing stays put, right? Everything that comes to you gets to be expressed. You treat for an easel and a canvas and some paints and brushes. Well, guess what? Now it's time to, and so on. So here's this process. And what I suggest for you to do is to take this into your prayer work, bracket it with whatever expression of faith you make about the deity of your understanding. If you believe in a triune God or a unitary God or whatever kind of God, or you're not even sure there's a God, but you're willing to admit there's the possibility, or that there's a force in the universe, even if it's something that it seems to have no personal connection to you, like a law. Speak your own words, and then do this. There is one life. There is one life. One power, one presence, one whatever you want to call it. One heartbeat. One chord. All right? One spectrum. One. There is one. Declare this to yourself till you feel it. Till you feel it and you kind of see it with your inner eyes as well as your physical. And you see it kind of arising from the ground around you. And you see it kind of descending from the sky around you. There is one. And then you move to the second step. There is one. And that one is in me. That life is my life. That one constitutes who I am at a local personal level. I am one with it. I am one with all of it. Maybe not all at once, but I'm one with all of it in potential. And so I draw from that one that which I need. I'm one with all of its attributes. I don't need to know how today to make a tree. It's good enough that I plant them. You know, it's good enough that I plant a seed or get a sapling or something and put it in the ground. I don't need to know how to invent the thing from the ground up. I don't need a planet. I'm on one. You see what I mean? And so there's a lot of stuff that the one can do that I don't need to know how to do. But there is stuff I do need to know how to do. That only I can do because I signed up for it and here I am. And so the attributes of this one, its wisdom and its direction and its purpose and its meaning and all that, I personalize that, I internalize that, and I localize that in this second step, which is called unification or identification. I identify myself with the one. So, to review, there is one life, one power, one presence, etc., and I am one with it. Those are the first two steps out of 5. And if you stop at those 2 and just linger there, basically you're meditating. You're having a really nice meditation. You're communing with the infinite. You're having a wonderful experience of communion. You haven't moved it to a place where you're requesting any particular change. You're just kind of basking and you're marinating, all right, in this sort of feeling of. And if you choose to go on, there's a third step, which is the logical outcome of the union of the first 2, that there's a power greater than I am right where I am, and I can use it. So now what am I going to do? Now I'm going to use it. Now I'm going to use it. And I'm going to declare, and I'm going to decree, and I'm going to affirm, and I'm going to claim a particular quality of good in my life in a specific enough way that I get moved emotionally about it. So rather than being real general about, I affirm a wonderful day tomorrow, that's not really exciting, is it? What is a wonderful day to you? Get specific about it to the point where it generates feeling. It generates feeling in you. Declare the thing. Decree the thing. You don't have to be so specific that you nail down every detail to it, but at the same time you don't want to be so general that you lose interest in it. You also don't have to plunder it from somebody else because there's ultimately available good for everybody. So to say, I want the job so-and-so has, or I want the partner so-and-so has, no, we don't go there. Because basically, really, other than, ethical boundaries and stuff, what's going on there is that you're affirming to the power within you that you're not worthy. You have to take what somebody else has because you're not deserving on your own of your own good. That's not a message you want to tell yourself. That's not a powerful, creative message, okay? That's a very limiting thing, but you know that. So decree the thing, and especially decree it at the level of feeling. So rather than saying, I have $1 million cash, that sounds lovely, doesn't it? But how much is really enough? How about saying all of my needs are easily and naturally met? How about saying I am creatively supplied with all manner of good things to do that which ought to be done by me? I reach out my hand and Spirit puts something into it and it says, here, now use this, do that. You know, even if it's what we, in the old days, we used to call a bus token. That's an MTA card, but well, it's not even that. It's an app on the phone, but it's a bus token. You know, what does that mean? You get to go someplace. You get to go someplace. You put out your hand and you get an assignment of sorts. More on that when I come back in 2 weeks on the assignment nature of things, because it's internal and not external. So this step is called realization. It's where you decree the thing. You speak the thing. Now, what happens next is a feeling of gratitude comes over you. And what that does is it tells you that you have effectively felt what you just said. If there's no gratitude there, drop back a step and say, I didn't really believe that. I didn't really buy that I just declared and decreed. And that third step, see, maybe it's what somebody else said I ought to have. You know? Or maybe my emotional energy is still tied on the condition as it stands rather than the possibility as it can occur. But when you have really clicked in emotionally, a feeling of gratitude will well up within you. You don't have to do anything about it. It's just a yes. It's just a yes. And you find that in that moment, you're good. You're all right. You're so good. Okay, now this is going to sound like a dodge, but bear with. You're so good in that moment that even if the thing you decreed never showed up, you're still happy. Okay, that's the paradox. And because you're that happy and you're that centered and you're that agreeable within yourself about the availability of good, you've freed it to show up. See, when we stop needing the stuff, it's free to come. Very odd how that happens, but it has to do with the workings of the subconscious mind, which is the place in us of spiritual law. And then the fifth and final step, which I usually tell a long story about, but we'll spare you today, the fifth and final step is release. You let it go. You let it work in the subconscious level, so you walk away from it and you distract your attention. You do something else. You do something. You go eat ice cream. Or you do something else, and you stop thinking about it. You stop obsessing on it. You stop wondering, is it here yet? Is it here yet? Like kids in the back of the car, are we there yet? No, you let it go. You release it. You walk away. In the same way that, like, you write a letter and you drop it in the mailbox, it's out of your hands, right? Or you hit send. You hit reply all. No, you hit send. You hit send, and the message is gone. And you'll get an answer when you get an answer. And it will be perfect, and you'll trust the process. And the answer that you'll usually get is a journey. You'll get a quest. You won't get a package in the mail saying, here is your good, fully delivered. No assembly necessary. No, lots of assembly will be required by you. You get a journey. You get a process out into the world. So whatever your particular spiritual beliefs, I think you'll see that this process doesn't step on any of them. You can say this in Hebrew, you can say it in Arabic, you can say it in Hindi, you can say it in the language that you made up within yourself. I tend to say it in sort of modern American because that's kind of who I am, and it helps in this audience, in this arena, to get the message across. The point is to convince yourself. So I wrote this last piece for you. I wanted to make sure I got it right, accurate right here. Picture the outcome. I get a little excited, see. So picture the outcome you desire so thoroughly that it feels more real to you than the condition it is replacing. Okay? Then step into that picture. Step into that. Create this panorama. But don't leave it there. Have it be more emotionally compelling to you than the condition you seek to replace ever was. And once you have it in place, step into it and pull it around you. And you will be where you had dreamed. So, there is one life, one power, one presence. This one is in and through and as each one. And I speak this word now for each person watching, and I speak it for all of the beloveds of this center and every other godling, wherever they may be distributed across the world. Know right now where you are, there's a power greater than you are. It is working in and through you to support you in your highest ideals, in your becoming of that which you have dreamed. And if you say to yourself, well, I don't really have much in the way of big dreams, I'm just sort of holding on, know that there's something that has you while you do that, that's working through you to give you stamina and strength and hope. Because you are here to do more than just survive. This is a big life, bigger than we've imagined, that we voted for, that we came into. And each and every one of us has a part to play. Not simply in the furthering of civilization and the building of a civic ideal of love and mutual respect, not just in those areas, but in ways that we cannot even imagine as we build heaven on earth. And as we do this, we do it with a light heart. There's joy and happiness to this. We're not trudging through life from place to place, making things happen. We're allowing them to happen in joy and in spontaneity and in trust. And so for this knowing, and the way that it filters down into the life experience of everyone who hears this word and pops up maybe on Tuesday with the hope and the inspiration and the comfort that at that exact moment you really need for the intuitive, brilliant way that Spirit has of managing its own business through us. I am so supremely grateful. And I release this word now, calling it done. And so it is.
So we're doing the basics of science of mind in January. And I asked Jesse today when I came in, how often do you pick a title like, a month out or 2 months out and then completely rewrite your talk the day before? Because I was in the park yesterday and I rewrote my talk, which I'm going to give next week. And I have another week, so I might rewrite it again, but probably not. But the good news is since Jesse covered the 5 steps of treatment, you're not going to get that from me tomorrow, for next Sunday. I'm going to go a different direction in the basics of science of mind. So I hope that you will join me and see what it is that inspired me yesterday in the park. And don't worry, it wasn't the squirrels. Although I find much inspiration in the squirrels every week. So before I send you out into the world, I'm going to remind you to take a deep breath, to look around, to see. Today's a good day to do it because it's going to be almost warm here. It's going to be in the mid to high 60s. So take a deep breath of that cool air and look at the sun shining down. That great light and how it brings out aspects of something that you hadn't noticed before when you see it in the sunlight. Because the same thing is possible with the light within. With that God light, that spirit light, whatever. When you use that light to look at something, someone, a situation anew, you will see things that you didn't see the first 100 times you looked at it. So I encourage you to find that light and look with that light. Or as I know that I've heard it said many times, look with the eyes of love. So in that knowing, take one nice deep breath, breathe it all the way down. And as you relax and release the breath, know that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. I am made up of that love. It flows in me. It flows through me. It flows around me. It is the love that I use. And it is the love with the capital L and the capital O and the capital V and the capital E. And because I know this love about myself, so too do I know it about each and every one of you. You are made of this love. This love flows through you. This love carries with it everything that you want, need, desire. And this love through you makes all of that possible. We are always love in potential. We are the ones that take the steps to make love an action. And so I know so today that we are love in action. And I know this with gratitude. And I look forward to seeing all of the possibilities of love in action. And I release my word now, knowing that it is so. And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust
I
it.
use it.
I use it.
And I love it.
And I love
And
it.
so it is.
So it is.